He's the boogeyman of the UFC lightweight division, a fighter who many see as the eventual heir to the weight class's throne. But there's a lot more to Islam Makhachev than his best moments inside the octagon would suggest. And for this video, we're going to give you some insight into this highly touted prospect. We all know that Khabib Nurmagomedov and Islam Makhachev are like brothers, training partners who have helped each other improve on the mats for years upon years. But what some of you might not know is that these two lightweights actually went to the same school as children, growing up side by side before taking similar paths through the world of Sambo and eventually the mixed martial arts cage. Dagestan is of course a major hotbed for combat sports athletes, and as well as the old saying goes, iron sharpens iron, and these guys have been improving alongside one another from the earliest days of their rise to their shared status as global stars. It's a pretty compelling story, and one that would have been made even more special if Islam of course could replicate Khabib's success by capturing the lightweight title. Though he's now riding a hugely impressive 8-fight win streak, a string of victories that has seen him grow increasingly confident in his abilities, what some fans might not know is that Islam Makhachev has actually suffered a knockout defeat inside the octagon. Facing Adriano Martins at UFC 192 back in 2015, the Dagestan prospect barely had the opportunity to get going after a looping right hand caught him flush on the chin just under 2 minutes into the contest. Obviously, he managed to rebound in incredible fashion, but this early setback in many ways cooled some of the original hype that surrounded Makhachev after his debut. The UFC lightweight champion Rafael dos Anjos has carved out a reputation as a man who will fight anyone. Seriously, take a look at the list of names that RDA has fought in the last 7 years or so, and it will be increasingly clear that he has barely taken an easy fight in the longest time. So when Islam Makhachev was signed to take on the divisional great, fans rejoiced as it finally represented a major step up in competition for this widely avoided talent. However, after 3 separate attempts to get Makhachev and dos Anjos into the octagon together, injuries, COVID, and visa issues have deprived us of what could have been an amazing stylistic matchup. Whether they'll fight in the future or not is unclear, but with Islam closing in on the title contention, it clearly doesn't look likely. As RDA, he'll always be hanging around the top 10, and for our money, his career has been memorable and consistently challenging as they come. Here are 2 facts for the price of 1. Firstly, although he didn't make it overly public, Islam actually got married earlier this year, tying the knot with his partner in a wedding that was attended by several major figures within the sport of mixed martial arts. On top of that, he rented an entire hotel to host the event, reportedly bringing thousands of guests in what was certainly not small, but an intimate affair. The wedding took place in his home of Dagestan and took place in the weeks after his UFC 259 victory over his fellow lightweight Drew Dober. You want to talk about high praise? Well, the famed manager of both Islam and the former UFC lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov, Ali Abdelaziz, once again found himself in the headlines by declaring to the world that Makhachev is in fact an even better fighter than Khabib. It might just sound like nothing more than just some sharp promotional work from Ali, but given that he's been on the mats training with both men for years now, it seems like he would be in a perfect position to make a judgment like that. Either way, the thought of another fighter who is even comparable to the Eagle makes for a very scary thought, don't you think? Only time will tell if Khabib's legacy can be improved on by his prodigy, but based on what we've seen so far, it's clear that Makhachev is a very special fighter indeed, with him now edging even closer to an eventual title shot. We're certainly moving into the most interesting period of this hugely promising talent's career. Though the names on Islam's resume might not immediately grab your attention, one fighter in particular, Arman Tsarukyan, seems to be in his own path to greatness. After being handed the inevitable task of making his UFC debut against the highly touted Islam Makhachev, despite being seen as a major underdog, Tsarukyan managed to put up one hell of a fight, losing to the decision but earning himself a $50,000 Fight of the Night bonus check for his efforts. And in the time since, after going 4-0 in the UFC, people are pointing to Tsarukyan as a potential future champion within this division. So while the names on Islam's record might not look too outstanding just yet, be warned because they're aging like fine wine. Perhaps it's not a fact per se, but get a load of this masterful Russian Thai snap pulled off by Islam Makhachev in the training room. It's a high-level wrestling takedown that always scores major style points due to how explosive a technique it is. Even the legendary Daniel Cormier, who wrestled for Team USA in the Olympics, was pretty blown away by Islam's application of the rare move. And you know that when DC is praising you, that you've done something right. Maybe it's not a takedown he'll be too quick to attempt inside the octagon, but there are clearly levels to this guy's game that we're not seeing. When he's not fighting or training, Islam Makhachev is an avid fan of motorsports, often heading out with friends on his own bike rides through harsh terrain. A teammate of Islam's even gifted Khabib Nurmagomedov a motorbike to encourage him to try it, but surprisingly the former UFC lightweight champion doesn't like the risks involved. For Islam though, when the hard work on the mats is done, he enjoys heading out on mountain biking, even if it's technically a risk to his long-term fighting future. Khabib might not approve, but Makhachev is certainly only human. Hopefully he can avoid serious injury though, because in reality his rise to the top 155-pound division is only truly starting to get interesting now. Islam Makhachev holds the impressive distinction of being the least hit fighter in the UFC at present, and it's in the promotion's history. No other fighter with at least 5 UFC outings has managed to avoid being hit with a significant strike less than 1 time per minute inside the octagon. Islam, with 10 UFC fights under his belt, has racked up a rate of 0.77 strikes absorbed per minute, a frankly ridiculous stat. Of course, he's not always trading on the feet like the majority of the fighters, but it's the fear of the takedown that causes many of his opponents to freeze up, even in striking exchanges that they could technically be successful in. Makhachev isn't the most polished striker in the sport, but this mixed martial artist, and as far as the entire package is concerned, he is a handful for anyone in the lightweight division, bringing a well-rounded skillet that clearly contains strong offense and defense. And finally, we come to the final fact on our list. After 10 UFC fights and many takedown attempts, Islam Makhachev is the proud owner of the highest takedown completion rate in the history of the lightweight division. Where Khabib will chain multiple attempts in order to pull off one, Makhachev of the two is far more efficient as a wrestler, succeeding in 65% of his attempts to bring down the fight to the mat. With quick double legs, persistent singles, and a wide range of trips and throws at his disposal, Islam's ability to control where the fight takes place is without a question his greatest attribute. Of course, as the level of competition improves, it will be interesting to see how success rates change, but for now, as far as the 155-pound division is concerned, no one can best the excellent takedowns of this future contender. And that will just about do it for this video.